Alright, welcome back to the Duel. Good afternoon sa inyong lahat. Pao, always joined by Ren, my
Hi.
co-host.
It's
It's
I tried to call in sick because
you tried to call in sick because the Boston Celtics have lost the Eastern Conference.
wala siyang
Finals.
hindi siya
Hindi siya
correlated.
Hindi siya
Talagang
related.
sumama lang pakiramdam ko.
Not related.
Nagkataon after the game.
Nagkataon lang after the game. Okay.
But that wasn't the reason.
Well, panalo naman sila sa TV namin. Panalo sila sa TV. Well, again, congratulations to the Cleveland
Panood ako dyan.
Cavaliers.
Cavs.
Congratulations to the Cavs. And tomorrow is going to be the Western Conference Finals. So
Game 7 as well.
Game 7 as
The
well.
First time in 20
First time.
years.
Since 1979, right? Since 1979.
More than 20 years.
More than
actually.
20 years now. So if you're a basketball fan, it's a good day. It's a good day to be a basketball fan.
It depends
Right.
kung sinong team mo.
Well, again, that's why I said basketball fan, not a team fan. But this is not a duel about basketball, though we would like it to be. Today, we're going to talk about a bunch of topics, pero nothing is hotter than what just happened ngayong madaling araw. And we're not even going to skirt around. Today's episode is going to be about EG. This is going to be about EG. We're going to talk about two main topics. We're going to talk about, was misery the problem? You know, what was the problem of EG? Why they weren't able to have any significant finishes after they brought in misery and implemented some changes. And then we will build our own EG roster given what we know. And I think I have the correct answer.
No, this is a fun thing though.
This is, well,
it's fun,
okay.
especially when you're not dealing with cap issues and
Exactly. We're not for the next segment, we're not going to deal with money caps.
Yeah.
We're not going to deal with
transfer fees.
mga
ganung bagay.
because those can get up to the 100,000s. In a perfect world, we will build our EG roster that's going to be
100,000 is probably
designed.
low na ngayon,
That's
isn't
very
it?
low.
Yeah, that's low
very
na
low.
ngayon.
So, okay. By the way, before we begin, we would like to, again, thank you, yung viewers namin, especially ang Lupon na Wombo Combo. If you're not a part of the Lupon na Wombo Combo, again, you can go to www.facebook.com/Lupon ng WXC and you can join there. You can always find post-match threads every time merong coverage. The Super Major is coming up on June 2, so that's going to be the next tournament, the final major of this season. And, of course, you can also suggest topics for our shows, including the Duel. So, thank you ulit sa inyong lahat. And without any further ado, let's start with the first topic. Was misery the problem? So if you guys didn't know, earlier this morning, EG made an announcement that they are going to go through with their roster changes ahead of the Super Major. I think for a lot of people, they expected that the last chance was going to be the Super Major before they implemented some changes. But according to the EG management, they are doing this so that there is ample time for the players that they removed, Misery and Fear, to find what they want to do ahead of TI. So the people who have been removed are Misery and Fear. Now we do have some tweets coming out from the players.
Yes.
And Misery in particular feels like the one with the most drama. He said that I have been kicked out of EG, but he is happy and grateful to be out of the team. He thanked his fans for support, and now he is just looking forward to what's next for his career. Meanwhile, Fear also confirmed that he is out of the roster, and he's going to take the time to be with his family. He is a new father now, so
I think it's a difference that because
yes,
I think it's implied that Fear stepped down.
exactly.
Whereas
Misery was removed,
booted
booted out.
I think for a short while, its description on Twitter was
Occasionally kicked.
Yeah.
Occasionally kicked. So yun yung tatanungin natin. Was Misery the problem? Because it does feel like he was the one kicked. Meanwhile, Fear did step down. Ren, what do you think?
Yeah, for first, when you're kicked, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the problem.
Right.
And for the question, I don't think Misery is a problem. I think EG, the team as a whole, is the problem. It's funny because the title natin sa episode today is EG
Implosion episode. Yeah, it's true.
But the thing about
I make the title.
the thing about EG's roster change, you can't call it an implosion anymore because this kinds of thing happen every time they change the roster. It's never it's almost
never nice.
a good thing.
It's almost never an amicable
I don't know why it
separation.
happens. Kung ba't ganun nangyari sa kanila?
Right.
But it's the case. Now, for Misery, I want to lay out that EG is not a bad team. I'm sure marami pa ring fans ng EG. They're very loved, especially by our audience.
There's a fan from EG just upstairs.
Just upstairs. I know.
Oh.
He's bleeding blue.
He's bleeding.
Anyway, EG is not a bad team. They're a good team. I think if they did not change the roster, kahit na sinasabi ng mga tao that the NA qualifier is gonna be hard, they're probably still 50-50 para nakapasok DI.
Right.
And in most cases, 50% chance of going ETI is not a bad thing. It's a very good thing.
Right.
But EG is under high standards that, ang goal nila is not just qualifying UTI or not just finishing decent sa events. They want to finish
First. That's the point.
It's all or broke. Because lalo na if you look at their performance, we've been saying how below standards of kanilang performance, but when you look, kunyari kung March victory na they won March, an event, a small event
GSC
in
Indonesia
GSC. After that, they were a bit okay. They were 7-8 nung the next month. They were 7-8 sa DAC. That's after a good group stage, but they lost upper bracket sa LGD, which is a monster. DAC starting, and then they lost the lower bracket sa VP, which was something na nahirapan sila. And then sa GSC minor, again, it's another very good group stage. Only to lose to King Gaming, who also in turn naman defeated Secret, who is a strong team. And you can see here, even the events before the GSC Indonesia minor, they were 5th to 8 in the Bucharest major. That's they were perfect in the Swiss in the group stage.
Right.
Only to lose to Liquid in the single
single
elimination
game,
playoffs. They were 5th to 6 in the 16 team ESL Katowice. So and they were eliminated by VP ng 1-2. So looking that, hindi ganun siya impressive, but at the same time, I think they're on par. They're on route to qualifying to TI. However, the problem for them, pagdating sa playoffs, nahihirapan sila to compete with the better teams, with the top tier teams.
Right.
So we're talking about VP, we're talking about Liquid, and now we're talking about LGD as well.
Right.
These three teams,
and they're not even necessarily struggling against Secret. They're struggling against
so against Secret.
Exactly.
Fnatic lately they've been struggling, but I think maliit din na sample size natin. But the thing is, they're having problems facing the top teams because what I see from EG is they've been relying so much on their talent.
Okay.
They've been playing, they've been trying things out, but in the end, their play style, their hero pool, it's so one-dimensional, and it's something that doesn't fit. What
So
we
is
have right
Misery
now.
the problem there?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think talagang there's only so much to work with in EG right now.
See, that's where I will disagree because especially do sa sinabi mo right there. They've been relying on talent. And I will agree with you, right? When I look at EG as a team, again, if we're looking at EG as a team, I agree. They're not bad. They're definitely not bad. Compared to their closest rival, for example, against Optic Gaming, if we just take a look at the objective numbers, they look better than Optic Gaming. So, when Misery joined EG, that was in December 20 of 2017. That was patch 7.07. Now, if you take a look at how much they've been winning from that moment compared to Optic Gaming, EG has a 65% win rate and Optic has a 59.74. That's taking in from the time na sumali si Misery all the way to yesterday. All the way to yesterday when Optic got into a best of 3 against BP. Now, let's compare them to the top teams, right? Against the top teams, and I'm putting in LGD, although LGD would have a very small sample size if I take it all the way from December. Liquid, Secret, and VP, you would see that they're actually doing better than Liquid and Secret, right? Now, there are some caveats to this. Liquid, Secret, and LGD, for example, they don't have the same amount of qualifiers played, but total matches played are still very close, right? So, LGD has a 68% win rate, and that's bolstered by the last few months. VP is just head and shoulders above everyone. We know that they're the best team on earth. Secret and Liquid, however, are not doing better than EG in terms of winning games. And again, I took all of this data from the time that Misery entered.
Yeah, the problem with this data, what I can see though,
right?
Ang concern ko sa data na to is you're not taking into consideration the quality of teams that these teams have been facing.
No, exactly. And that's where I want to make my point. If you just look at the data,
Uh-huh.
they look good.
Right.
But tulad nung sabi mo, where do they fall off? They fall off when the matches matter.
Exactly.
When the matches matter, that's where they fall off. But when you said that maybe misery is not a problem, maybe this is just what you have to work with, that's the thing. I think EG has an embarrassment of riches. Take a look at the kind
Do
of
they?
talent. I think they
don't
do.
think so.
I think they do. All right.
Okay.
Just take a look, okay?
All right.
Now, when we saw this current style of EG,
Mm-hmm.
the current style of EG where they have role-less Dota, we saw that at Galaxy Battles.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first iteration where they had all of these different strategies. They mentioned on camera that after December, they sort of reformed, and
Yeah.
then Misery was the one who championed the idea that maybe we shouldn't place all of our heroes in static lanes.
Mm-hmm.
They should just go for the matchup. And it made sense during that time because it was patch 7.08.
Yeah.
Right? It made sense. But the thing is, from that point forward, Misery also became their captain. It was no longer Crit.
Mm-hmm.
When Misery entered the team, Crit took a step down as their captain, and Misery became the captain.
Yeah.
So he had the say on implementing that strategy. At the very least,
Okay.
he was the one championing the strategies. At that moment, you are now responsible for your inflexibility, because from that point forward, that's when we started seeing role-less Dota was implemented in that team on that moment, but it never changed. They stubbornly stuck with, okay, let's put Fear in the middle lane.
For you, was Misery the problem?
Yes,
He was the problem.
I think he is the problem, but not that he is a bad player.
Okay.
He's the problem because it was his responsibility as a captain to steer the ship in the right direction. Siguro 5 patches ago, Sumail should have gone back to middle lane.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're the captain, you should be the one enforcing that. Maybe Sumail didn't want to because he was the one who said that I want to go into the off lane because I wanted a favorable matchup.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen in the last few months, off lane was no longer a 1v1 lane. When Sumail wanted to go into the off lane role, that was when we had Brewmaster and Omni Knight fighting each other on the off lanes.
Okay.
1v1. Right? That's what he wanted. He wanted the 1v1. But when Misery came in, she should be the one responsible to say, Sumail, I understand what you want to do, but that's not going to work ngayon. I think when you take a look back, that is what I want to hold Misery accountable for. As a captain, yes, your superstars are very good at playing. They have their own ideas. But it is up to you to ultimately drive the decisions for the team in terms of strategy. And that's why I think it is Misery. It is Misery. And that's why he was the one who was unceremoniously kicked. That's why there's some bitterness. Because for him, maybe he felt that it's kind of unjustified because he was also trying to appease other people.
Yeah, the problem to me with this, with the train of thought that you're taking, is you're putting all these responsibilities sa captain as if siya lang yung may voice of authority sa team, which for a team like EG, which is definitely not the case, because this is a team made out of people with very high egos.
It's
something that we know. And I don't think, there are teams where there are captains and you can see na hindi sila ganun ka-assertive. And it doesn't mean na it's their responsibility. And I think it's the same here.
I don't think that, again, I agree with you. We've seen these players in person, right? We know exactly how much we've been with
these players, not just seen them.
Yeah, that's true. We've been with these players. We've seen them play, not just watch them on stage. We've actually been with them when they were playing. But that's the thing. At a certain point, responsibility has to be claimed by the leader. It's the same as any company, right? In a company, I understand. If a company makes a mistake, it's not just the fault of one person. That's crazy.
Right.
Because it's a system. But who takes responsibility? It's the leader. Even if the small things add up together and, someone made a mistake on their laning. Fear, for example. I will also say that Fear was not very good this season. Especially in the role that he was in, which is mostly mid lane.
But in the cases you're referring, when someone steps up to take the responsibility, that's a PR stunt That's something,
Well,
to
that's
build up the team. This is not
sure.
the case here.
No.
There's a bigger problem than misery.
No. Exactly. But
Yeah.
when you say that when leaders do that, that's a PR stunt. I don't necessarily agree because again, it's like
No, it's one half. It's the other is, to encourage
no.
other
That's
members.
that's a motivation
Yeah,
on
that's
why
the
people
thing.
do that. But
Mhm.
the correct way to do that is the team is losing. Your role-less Dota has failed since February. Sumail needs to go back to mid lane. Force it. Enforce it. Hindi niya ginagawa eh. And I understand.
Mhm.
There is a non-zero, definitely non-zero. There is a big chance that at the end of the day, EG, at least EG with Misery and Fear, is just uncaptainable.
Uncaptainable.
Uncaptainable, right? It's uncoachable. You can't tell them what to do. Which is something that PPD himself, former captain of EG, alluded to, because EG decided to build around the whims and desires of Sumail. That's why the only people that they kept are people that Sumail can play with, RTZ and Crit. But when you take a look at the problem there, then there are two ways to go about it. Misery should have taken a more assertive role, and if hindi kinaya yon, he should have earned the respect of Sumail and RTC. Clearly, that didn't happen. And
Yeah.
clearly, that didn't happen. So, again, I'm not calling Misery a bad player. But if someone needs to take responsibility for ultimately the strategic failing of this team, because again, embarrassment of riches in terms of talent.
I don't know.
They have the tools.
I think it's more of a scapegoat in this situation than
All right, go ahead.
being the problem itself. We're going into the problem again of EG. That they're overwhelming. They're using their talent to win games,
Right.
and that's the problem because their approach, they're what you call the positionless Dota. That's something that works with other teams. Like we see VP. That's something they're very proficient at doing.
Right.
To a sort of extent.
To
I
a
think-
certain extent,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think they're very good at that.
Although I wouldn't call them role-less Dota in the same way that EG was, because EG was just
Yeah.
absolutely all over the
Ramses
place.
was kind of there, and then the other two were
Right.
more sa VP. But here, we see EG winning. Mataas ang kanila winning percentage.
Yes.
But because they always fail in the first round of the playoffs,
That's true.
they always, they have very
They
good
they
group
lose
stage.
when yeah.
They have very good group stage performance. Again, yung kanina sinabi ko, they're 5-2 sa groups nung GSC.
Right.
Both GSCs, they were 5-2 against the AC. They were perfect sa Swiss ng, I think, oh no, sorry, that's
Katowice.
ng Katowice.
Katowice.
So they're very good sa groups, and then they fall off sa
Hmm.
first, second round ng playoffs. And we see the other teams like Liquid with lower percentage, but that's because they lose best of fives in the finals.
Right.
I think that's
And they also
something-
don't play a lot of qualifiers, right?
Uh,
They
I-
just go all
yeah,
the way straight.
I think that they never played a qualifier.
They have never
I
played
think
a
they played
qualifier.
one for Dream League. I think they played for Dream League.
Was that season 8?
No, this season.
Okay, so season 9, yeah.
Dream League ngayon, they played once kasi 8-team event lang. There's only 2 invites
Right,
and then
right.
6 qualifier slots. Ichi doesn't, I don't think they've played a lot of qualifiers, especially before.
Mm-mm.
More of as recent lang. Actually, recently again, they have a lot of invites.
Past February. Past February is when they
Yeah,
started playing more
probably,
qualifiers.
It's still not a lot in,
It's not a lot,
terms
right.
of other teams. But uh, the concern for me about EG is they've been playing their approach to the game is kind of similar to newbie. They've been approaching the game how they were approaching it before.
Right. They just never
Agreed na
yeah.
they changed their roles a bit. They swap out, but the way they played the game essentially,
Mm.
it was the same as before. And this is something that we've seen in Dota. Na, let's say Navi way back TI2,
Right.
the same roster in TI3. But then a team can just become good,
Right.
then fall off with the same roster just because the game changed a bit. And they did not change their style. They remain the same talent.
Mm.
I'm sure. I'm as much as these are just boys trying to have fun.
Right, right.
I'm
Well, it's
I'm-
not Sad Boys era
Yeah,
now,
but I'm sure kahit na sabihin nila ganun yung kanilang, they still work hard. They have very high
Yeah.
expectations. And yeah, that's a problem for them. They were in the shell of themselves before na hindi sila nakaalis. I
Right.
think that was the biggest problem.
I mean,
of
they're
EG.
living in the shadow of TI5, right?
Yeah.
They're always going to live in that expectation. And again, if I were EG's manager or not,
Expectation is not even bad. The ego
not.
is the bad part.
Yes,
If you're
yes.
living in the idea that you're the best team, you're just
ako lang again,
waiting
I
for the
understand
victory.
systemic problems,
Mhm.
right? I understand systemic problems.
What is systemic problems?
Again, there's when you have a problem like EG underperforming, it's not just one big factor, right? It's not just it's the fault of this
Oh
person,
yeah, definitely,
right?
definitely.
So I understand systemic problems, but I think at the end of the day, again, when you're the captain, it is incumbent upon you to find the solution, right? You're never going to be the CEO of a company, and then kapag something goes wrong, you can point na, it's actually that guy's fault. No, it's still your fault because you need to be on top of things.
Yeah, that could be true in most cases,
Right.
but I think it's EG is more like an honorary captain in this case.
That's true.
I don't think I don't think his his
Yeah, pero-
authority is any more bigger.
but that needs to
Yeah.
change, and he needs to
it
earn
does.
that.
It does
And he
need to
didn't.
change.
And he didn't.
You
That's the problem.
It doesn't just change.
Right?
You just don't earn trust of people.
I
Usually,
don't know.
winning solves stuff.
Winning solves up.
They
That's
did
true.
not win. That was
Yes.
the big problem.
And again, if winning solves things,
Yeah.
and he is still responsible for that. That's what I'm saying. Diba? If he needed to be the captain that brings EG the trophies. Right? He didn't
Mhm.
EG did not need a captain to win group stages.
I
EG
think-
can do that in their
I
sleep.
just think it's too much weight on his shoulder,
I know it is.
given all
I know
things
it
that
is.
they weren't the winning team when he
Yeah.
arrived.
I know it is. And I'm not saying this out of glee. I'm not saying this because I don't like Misery.
Mhm.
I'm not saying this because I think Misery needed to be booted out.
Mhm.
But if we're going to go at the end of the day, who's responsible? Who had the ball to make sure that they did not fail strategically? Because again, they were winning these games. Even when you look at the games where they were losing to top teams, it's not like they were getting destroyed by VP in the laning stage. At least not for Sumail's lane. Fear's lane, yes. Right?
Mhm. Yeah. I
They
agree.
were losing strategically.
They weren't even downright losing in the laning stage.
They
even.
weren't,
Yeah.
right? They were not like Optic.
Unlike,
they were not like Optic,
unlike Optic.
right? They
Unlike
weren't like Optic
Definitely
yesterday.
unlike Optic.
Diba? I don't think they lost a 19-minute game, diba? They weren't losing these games out of mechanical deficiency.
Mhm.
Because it's impossible. You have RTC and Sumail.
Yes.
They were losing out of strategic hard-headedness.
Yeah. They're trying to make it work. And again, that's
Apat na buwan na nasa offlane si Sumail.
again, yun yung problem nila
Right,
for so long. I think there's teams who try this, like swapping roles. Even
right.
even LGD was
LGD
in
was
a
on the
struggle
roster.
because they tried an offlane change as well.
Right.
Pero
So yun, ako lang for me, again, I'm not saying this because I think Misery is a bad player. I think he's a great player.
No, I think, yeah, I guess I have to
Right.
succumb that
Yeah.
he has to take responsibility,
Yeah.
but I hate to call him the problem.
The problem. Sure.
This is such a, you say I'm systematic.
Mm.
Uh,
Systemic problem.
Systemic problem.
Right.
yeah.
Systematic is different. Systematic
Okay.
is different.
A systemic problem, it's a big thing.
Uminit
And
bigla yung aircon.
I just refuse to say or to even
Right.
accept that Misery was the problem for
Right.
EG.
All right.
They were bad even
They were bad without him. You're saying.
I was saying they weren't bad. They weren't really excellent when he arrived. And I think medyo they remained status quo despite
Right.
every changes, despite the uni thing.
And there is one other thing that I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I said kanina, diba? I'm not giving a free pass on everyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just that ako, where my mentality is, kung leader ka, you're ultimately responsible. That's it. Dun ako na. That is the thesis of what I think.
Would you say that Jabs is responsible for Mineski?
As the leader?
Yeah.
If he wants to earn that mantle, the mantle of leader is not, hindi siya honorary, dapat.
Mhm.
Right? If you want to be called the leader, you have to be willing to step up and take the responsibility when something wrong happens. Not just be there and say,
Of course.
ikaw yung leader, tapos panalo kayo. Ako yung leader.
No,
Alam
of
mo
course,
yun,
I
diba?
get that. I get that.
So I will say that. I will say that, right? Like, for example, Meeple's not working. Right?
But
Whose
that's-
idea was that?
definitely- No, that's
Don't
definitely-
allow
he's
it.
not even
diba?
drafting.
That's true.
He's
That's
not
true.
even drafting.
Exactly. It's the drafter's fault, right? And that's the drafter's fault.
Pero
We hold the
that's
drafter
something that comes
responsible.
from a team consensus.
Not necessarily. You and I know enough people
No.
draft, enough teams draft na
No.
minsan, wala, gusto ko tong laruin.
Not team consensus. Okay, not team consensus, but
Diba?
at least in most cases,
I got
majority
you.
consensus.
Most of the time, sure. Pero you and I know na minsan may player na tournament na, no, I want to play this hero, bahala na. So, that's what I'm saying.
The that those things, are they're very good.
Are very bad.
Are very bad. So one of those two things always happen.
Pero yun, again, dun lang ako manggagaling.
Okay.
But with that, I will say that Fear was also underperforming. Very, very well.
Fear was
I think
recently.
so.
He was,
Recently.
he was playing okay. He was
Recently,
playing okay. Actually,
he was playing okay. If when he got Lycan, and in the beginning of the season, when Lycan was busted, he was also playing very well. But he did not have that very deep of a hero pool. His Grobulus was fine.
I think
his Death Prophet was okay.
He was playing some Vipers while you're in there.
Yeah, that wasn't very good, diba? So again, but I don't think that's that big of an issue.
I think
Sumail,
the bigger issue for me is
yeah,
they have two very good mid players.
I know.
They chose to not place them.
They
at
chose to never play them on mid.
mid. No, that's so weird for me.
I think the other thing is, if there is a problem,
Well, there is a problem.
well, yeah, but I mean the problem,
Okay.
the article
Yeah.
the, I think it's tama si PPD. They shouldn't have
Marami siyang sinabi.
well, yeah,
Ano doon?
they shouldn't have built around Sumail's wishes, right? He said it when they kicked Universe that this team does not need to build around the desires of this one kid, and it's true.
Is it fair to assume that this is Sumail's idea?
I don't think it's fair to assume that, but I think it is a justifiable
Reasoning.
yeah,
To just
reasoning,
to,
yeah.
to come up with a
Interpolation,
conclusion.
yeah. You can interpolate that this a big part of this is because they were all in on building around Sumail.
Yeah, but
Right.
and the issue is this is magulo talaga.
Magulo talaga.
It's not
Yeah.
something na they decided after a peaceful talk. Na
This is not a peaceful
It's
talk.
best
This
if
is-
you go.
This is not a peaceful talk. I think if I had to guess, I mean, we have some information. Fear really did want to step down because he has a child now. Wants to spend time
2 days
with-
before the
2
event.
days before the event.
Yep.
His son was born. So that would have been probably an easy thing for him to decide on, right? I have a son anyway. Probably was weighing on his mind. So you know what? I will take some time off. What else do you need to change? Who was left on the chopping block?
Yeah, I think the last event was just a disaster waiting to happen for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look, they had GSC Thailand, and they ended 6th.
I mean, they
Fifth and sixth.
weren't so bad there.
They weren't so bad, but they ended 5th and 6th.
They lost to Keen, which somehow
They lost to Keen.
They somehow Secret lost to Keen as well.
That's also true, though.
But Secret is one of the biggest picture of inconsistencies.
That's also true.
In the
They're
DPC right now.
60.44%, but they're also top 3.
Yeah, they somehow win.
They won Dream League 8. So, that was very big.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go on a short commercial break. When we come back, those are our thoughts. I think for me, Misery needs to take the responsibility and step up. For Ren, he thinks it's a comedy of errors. Maraming maling nangyari in the end. They just didn't have what it takes. When we come back, though, we will build our own EJ roster.
Yeah.
From
Wala tayong $3.
Wala. We tried to do this in a fun way na meron kaming parang $5 itong mga tao na to, $3, but it's very hard to figure out which people are still available.
Yeah, it would take, one episode to categorize which goes to
Exactly. So, when we come back, it's build your own EG roster. We will try and become EG's management. So, don't go anywhere. The Duel will return. More about EG after the break.